if I can give some advice for those who this is just based off what I've learned. Not reality, I don't know this, but this is based off what I've learned. If you're a guy, getting your life in order, being financially independent, this does not particularly work with women. Their thing is a little different. But yeah, getting financially independent, getting your communication skills terribly well. Have great communication. Learn to be likable. Get your mental health and wellness together. If you are in decent middle class, I mean, that won't be as much of a problem. You'll probably have secure attachment, so you'll probably be in the good mode of treating people nice and being nice yourself, and not really being too clingy and not being too emotionally distant. And some people really like emotional distance. That's due to their own issues. But learn to just be all the stuff you can be. Go to a location that's particularly feasible for people. People have a strange height preference. Go to a place that has a more reasonable height preference. Maybe avoid the less big cities. Avoid big cities, especially if you're not if you're average looking and yet you have all these other things in a church. This is the church. Unfortunately, church culture is they lean too much into the modern, worldly, non-Christian culture. So cling to more simpler areas, and be available, be friendly, be a good person. You know, all this stuff is your fragrance. Be hardworking. Go to the gym. If you know about biology, those pheromones that it activates with your sweat. So maximize your availability in various ways. So when you're ready and you work out, and I mean get in there, start working out, you know, getting your muscle mass, learn how to fight and defend yourself, learn to assert yourself. If you learn to be comfortable, and also that's another thing, women love comfort. That's just something I've learned. You know, they like to feel comfortable around people. So if you're comfortable and you look like you can take care of yourself, and you look like you can protect yourself, and let alone protect another person, and you just present yourself and you're friendly. A lot of people have all these other things going on, and yet they can't really define this is how you do it, because they've cultivated all these special traits earlier on. So because they've developed all these traits, it just quote unquote comes naturally. No, they developed all this stuff early. It's kind of like when you're a part of a hockey team or something, and there's a kid that's particularly good, but if you notice, they're generally older. They just have a lot more experience. That's why they're gooder. That's why they're better. They just have a lot more experience. So this is what popular kids, when they're outgoing, they're likable, they have a lot more experience, and it relates positively. If they have a decent family that engages them positively and they are decent, it's kind of like with animals. Animals, they train themselves for the wild through play. This is all like the prerequisites. If they're good at playing with each other, they use that framework and they apply it to the real world, because a lot of this stuff is kind of practice. So if you have a good, upbringing and stuff like that, and you practice this in the real world, and you get your fitness up, and you get all these other prerequisites, then this all kind of bleeds over to the real world, and now you're successful and people like you more. But if you aren't, and you're not being taught with play, you're not socialized well, you're gonna have a harder time interacting with people outside your family group. And with women, there is a bad aspect of bad church culture. Now, I don't think all churches do this. I think they can be pretty privy to the culture, and they read the room pretty well. And so they teach you to be a competent individual. So in my opinion, part of a woman being particularly competent in church culture is getting your fitness together. They don't tell you this. They say, oh, but God just sent me a person and I just got somebody. Maybe that is true. Maybe that's true in your cultural context, and you just didn't have to do anything. But most people they're Christian, they love Jesus and all this other stuff, they meet a lot of factors. They just meet a lot of factors for people to like them. And some of it is indeed the fragrance of their personality within church culture. But the thing is, like all this stuff kind of combines together. Like, just because it's church culture doesn't mean biology isn't a thing. If you hear people being honest, they say, hey, I still need to be attracted to somebody. I learned this firsthand when I stopped listening to church culture and I just started to apply myself, and then I got the attention, but I was really shook because I'm like, church culture is not always right. And I'm not even saying because they don't go by the Bible. I'm saying sometimes they just apply Christian, just things they have personally applied. It's not even biblical. It's just kind of like, if you work on the chairs, if you work in a church, God's gonna bless you with somebody. I mean, where in the Bible is that? Don't they say in Ecclesiastes that the glory of a young man is his strength? The glory of an old man is his gray hairs. So work hard. Don't just work hard in the church. Work hard in your life. With women, you're gonna have to work in your own way. And my bad. So advice, hit that gym. Work on your character. Again, this works differently. We just work at different genders and different gender expectations. That fitness is gonna really matter. Now, at the end of the day, people get kids, they have baby weight, go up and down, but let your start be excellent. So be good, at the bedroom, it's probably a different situation, but like, get that fitness as best as you can. Get your character really good. Be a good individual in church. Be polite, be kind, be sweet, be gentle. They say the beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit. Why do you think atheist dudes love hunting in the church? Because these women don't look like they how they behave and stuff outside the church. I mean, how they behave in the church is different from women outside the church. So it's just different. So when these individuals, when they cultivate a kind, righteous, and honorable spirit that's not fake, that's genuine, that's selfless, that's loving, I think that's helpful. But again, this is not too different from what churches tell you. My biggest difference is that there is a physical element that people, they neglect. We don't talk about a physical element. Another thing is this stuff is sometimes conditional. Sometimes people are so sweet and kind, but they're only sweet and kind to people they like. They don't have a genuine sense of being a good person. And it's just like, when you are a good person and you show your appreciation and love for individuals, and also you have a reputation for being a decent individual, and you're honorable, but also beautiful. I'm sorry, this aspect does matter. And I'm not even saying that you have to dress up and doll up yourself. Just get have proper hygiene. If you are going to have some makeup, have it be a bit minimal. Because again, beauty is in biology. So, proportional face, people like all that stuff. Have a good personality. People enjoy a good personality. Be good to talk to and be around. Now, yes, you get to pick your person because the Bible doesn't really specify, apart from being a Christian, who is good for you. Just have a person be a good Christian and a person who tries to live righteous. So, and people need to stop having these intermixing the world's fantasies with the church's fantasy. So not the wolf, the werewolf, the pirate, the ex-felon, we got to just stop having that. I understand where it comes from, because it's wanting to have aspects that they like, a person to protect them, because they live in a very dangerous society, so they have to protect themselves. So they do that a lot. They don't even assert, they overly assert, because they live in a dangerous society. So when they come to Christ, they have all the stuff women want already. They got a sense of edge, so they definitely can protect you, because they definitely, if somebody threatens them, they get death them. They say, no, you're not gonna you're not gonna sit here and try to play me. They're humble at heart because they really want to change. They really want to have a better life. So they're very serious about their faith. They have a contrite heart, but generally it's just those other aspects that they don't mention for some reason. I guess it has to do with societal perception. He's tough-minded, he's contrite at heart. He's likely already working out. He has a lot of his priorities together. He's very responsible, because again, he's been in the world, so survival is just one of the name of the games for him. So that's not a problem. He's not particularly immature because he has to be mature in handling a harsh environment. So all that stuff women want, he already got. The thing is, he's missing is just being Christian. And some of these women don't even go for Christians. They go for a guy and they say, I'll just pray for him. No. I'll just pray for him that he becomes Christian, but I want him anyway. And I don't think that's right. I don't agree with that. That it does work at times. And that's part of my issue is that they cling to that 10% that it might work, and they'll still date a non-believer, even though that's not biblical. And don't get me wrong, men have their own version of this. Like I said, physical beauty does matter. So they might be willing to risk it all for a woman outside the faith, or a woman who's not a believer, who's exceptionally beautiful, and yet they want to flip a guy who's super righteous, the virgin guy who happens to be a little, I guess, cute in their eyes, or they just want to flip the guy. They want to turn him out to be a person who broke his code, and they say, "Ooh, I like this guy." I'm like, I don't know. Do you like him, or do you just like the fact that he's pious and you just want to make him not pious? You know, you want him to join you, and that might be based off some other thing. But yeah, I'm like, as a woman, I can understand the idea that you need to become independent. You know, I think that comes from a broken culture, poverty culture. At the same time, I do think you should. This is why I see a lot of women in these Christian colleges. They try to get their degree, and they try to get married after their degree. So it kind of hits those boxes. That's like, if I get this, then I know technically I'll be all right in terms of academics. But at the same time, I'll get what I'm kind of looking for, which is a relationship, you know. And so that works out for them. Another thing is, develop a culture that is, if you are in a space where you're not very favored, I say go to a different area that is a bit more removed from that. It's maybe a place that's a bit more relaxed. You know, I'm pretty sure you'll find somebody. It just depends on who you want. Find somebody who is open to considering you, but have all those other things taken care of. Because dudes, at the end of the day, they just don't want drama. They don't want a problematic woman. They don't want issues down the line. They want a woman who appreciates them, values them, and might tell them some words of affirmation. That dudes are not particularly difficult. They're not considering the bonds they have, the closeness they have. I mean, some of them are. I know for me, I'm a bit sensitive, so I would appreciate some closeness and some bonding. But I think generally dudes just want a woman to affirm them, make them feel like they're needed, they're necessary, that they're not gonna play them. So there's a sense of trust. So when they become vulnerable, that they're not gonna mess with that, and to just be pretty. I know people will say that's objectifying, but I mean, women objectify them for their financial prowess. So, I mean, this isn't really a one-sided objectification. Both sides are objectifying each other based off what they can provide, but that's not the central argument. It's just a part of it, and it is what it is. This is a part of the dating preferences. You need to have your stuff together. You need to kind of be ready for dating and aspects of dating. And if you just can't handle that, unfortunately, maybe you have to reconsider your options, you know. So that's what I got. I encourage you to wait to avoid a rash decision, but I don't encourage you to not pursue, or because again, even what is it? It's not Esther. I think it's Ruth. I keep forgetting the woman. I think it's either Esther or Ruth, but I think it's Ruth. What Ruth did was follow a older woman's advice. I think it was her mother or her mother-in-law. And I think her name it's not Gomer, it's Mara, I think. And that was her old name. That was her new name. Her old name, I can't remember. But she essentially listened to him. She essentially listened to her advice, and she said, "Hey, okay, sleep next to I think Boaz's feet." And the thing is, Boaz was an honorable guy. He wasn't gonna take advantage of her, you know. But the guy had money. He had servants. You know, he was an adequate man. He was a righteous man. He had his ducks in order, you know. And he was honorable. And the thing is, you know, she was with the maiden. She was poor. But the thing is, people, we don't really get this, but she had a good reputation. She was known to be an honorable woman, not only in her field, not only in her group, but even like where they were at. They went to an outside of I think it was Jerusalem. I could be wrong. It was outside of the place where generally the Jewish individuals were. And she was so good to her family. She was like, and this is just a spiritual takeover. She was an honorable individual, but her efforts were so honorable in respect to who she was and what she did as a woman that was socially expected of her, that this reputation was not an arrogance thing, but that she was an honorable woman that wasn't trying to take on a superficial posture. She was just a good person to her family, and she was doing good by her society. And then when she moved, she had a financial hardship. So, due to circumstances, they had broke up. Her family broke up, and she went with this woman, and this woman changed her name, and he went to this completely different area. And then she was poor. She was really poor. And what saved her was her reputation. They said, "Hey, Ruth, your reputation is awesome, And she says, "Hey, I need some food for my family because we're poor out here." She said, "Yeah, of course. You want a job too?" And she says, "Yes, of course." And then, my about to get tired. She works. So she wasn't a slouch. She wasn't trying to just get a free ride out here. She was an honorable woman. She was hardworking. She proved her worth. She was a noble woman of character. And she took advice. She wasn't prideful or arrogant. She wasn't pretentious. She was hardworking, and she had a heart of devotion. And people can tell that. People can tell an honorable person from a fake. So if you're out here faking it and you just want a husband, then people will suss that out. They're like, "I don't know, dog," because you just want a husband for some reason. Maybe to cover from your flaws, or just be taken care of. And today, people are very suspicious. So you have to have an honorable heart, a truly honorable heart, and not just get back because you're pretty, but get back because you're an honorable individual who works hard, and you're not a slouch. And this is what she pursued. What do you call it? Boaz, and via the advice, because she didn't just try to play him. She says she was at his feet, and Boaz was hey, this guy was an honorable man too. He had his stuff together, but he was an honorable man, and he freaked out. This guy was also an older man, so her options were pretty open. And he pursued her. I mean, she pursued him, which is funny. She pursued him. And again, he said she was beautiful, that she could have chosen anybody, but she chose this guy. And he was an honorable person. And again, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to the point. So she slept at his feet. He backed up, and she says something, and it was pretty indicative that she wanted him to marry her. And so instead of okay, sure, he says, give me a certain amount of time. I'm going to go figure this out. So not only he had her best interest in mind and heart. He wasn't just trying to take her. He was even surprised. You're a young, beautiful woman. You could have gotten any guy, but you got me. That's surprising. So he was a humble person too. So after he settled with this among his countrymen in a group, and it lasted for a couple of days, and I think she retreated back to her mom or mother-in-law, and her mother-in-law conversed this, because apparently this is cultural. So she talked to her about it. She said, "Okay, so they're gonna try to figure this out." And I think she talked to her about Mara, "Hey, could you take care of my mother-in-law as well?" And again, he figured this out. He said he will not rest until the matter is settled, or something like that. So this guy was gonna take care of her, even if it wasn't gonna involve him. He was genuinely a good person who really cared. So, and again, they proved their goodness. So when he proved their goodness, at the end of it, they finally solved it, and they almost had a consensus. But he was like, "Well, they do have the mother-in-law." She says, "I can't handle it. I can't do it." And it wasn't Boaz. This was another person. Until you mentioned the mother-in-law, he said no. And then Boaz said, "Okay, I'll take care of both of them." He was an honorable guy. So he was going to take care of this woman and her mother-in-law. and they got together. You know, and so that's generally, if you take from this story, there's honor involved, there's duty, there is not laziness involved, there's your reputation for being good. Not like your reputation matters, but it's just that your heart for people exceeds your reputation. And it came in handy because they were poor. So she couldn't play people. Maybe she could. Like, there's talks prior to this, as far as I can understand, about promiscuous women, and they used their good looks and they used their body, and Ruth wasn't doing all that. She used her honorable nature to her family. She was already pretty, but it's not like she didn't know. I think people know, but that's not really in the scriptures. But what I do understand is that she was an honorable woman, and that honor preceded her. She wasn't known for just being pretty. She was known for being a blessed, honorable woman who worked hard for her family. And not just for her family, she just was an honorable woman in general. So in this context, we don't really take care of her family much anymore, as far as I can tell. But she's just known to be an honorable woman, and that her looks wasn't the thing that drew people in. It was just like, oh, she's an honorable individual. So that's more so the case. Honor, respect, duty, and hard work. So it's not lying and cheating and manipulating and persuading. It's just honor and duty, and of course attraction. But attraction takes kind of a back seat. It matters, but it just takes a back seat to all these other things. And it didn't entitle them. They actually had to do things. Even in the past, I think it was like Sarah and Rachel. I think it was Rachel. I forget who she was paired up with, but pretty much the guy sent his servant. So we can even dub this a matchmaker. And so what he did, he looked at all these other women, and I think it was Rachel. She was taking care of camels. That's a lot of work. And he says, oh, he kind of like observed her, and she looked at him, and she even helped him out with his thirst, and I think even his camel. So she gave them water to drink. So again, she was an honorable woman who was not a slouch. So she cared. She showed empathy. She cared. So this is just like the not to be known for adornments or how they look. Looks matter, but they matter in backseat to being an honorable person. So again, this is why people love religious women, because religious women have a tendency to just be honor bound. They tend to be righteous women. They tend to not be a slouch. They work hard, and this implies that they will work hard in their marriage. So this isn't a person who got an attitude, who pick and choose who they're nice to. They're genuinely good people. And so you can tell this woman with a contrite heart, and they try and they love people, and they just try their best to be working hard as righteous individuals. So and you can tell after all that, the story later on, the guy comes with her to a house. He adorns her with all these nice things, nose rings, trinkets, bangles, whatever. And then he says, hey, do you want to go with this man? Now, mind you, from what I understand, there's like culture stuff. So if she actually denies, then she kind of has shame upon her family. So she honors her family. But she chooses to go with the man and go with the guy that this servant has recommended for her to go to. So she's an honorable woman. She services her family. She's not selfish. She loves people. She works hard. It's pretty close to like Proverbs 31. It's not a perfect person, but it's an honorable person who works hard for themselves, works hard for their families, pretty much, And I guess that's it. I'm sorry. I hope this makes sense. Man. Yep. But yeah, these are a lot of key concepts to the individual, and it's stuff you can do. People think, don't do anything, just be good and just, do stuff. It's time you got to prepare. And when an opportunity strikes, be smart, figure out how people who are in long marriages do it. Figure out how, follow wisdom. Don't just be like, I'm going to do it because this is what I want. I'm like, try to like, you have needs, that's understandable, but be an honorable woman, because dudes are looking long term for honorable women. They're not looking for people who will play them, people who will take advantage of them, who will mess up their trust, people who will switch on them because they feel in some type of way. They want women who are duty bound and honor bound, and indeed, yes, pretty, but also whose personality and character shines strong, shines bright, and that their love for the Lord shines bright. That shines a lot brighter than a woman who's, I mean, again, yeah, women, pretty girls get attention. Yes, that's true. That's very true. But like an honorable woman, their honor shines bright. Their desperation also shines too. So you need to be careful of that. But yeah, that's what I got.